myself. Or mipi achirim, but again, Rabbi says, you saw in yesterday's daf, there's a concept of a shvua mipi achirim. What shvua mipi achirim? Someone else articulates the shvua, then what? I say, Amen. It's as if I have said it myself. Mipi achirim in chayavim, ad sheyichabru bahen bebeizin div Rabbi Meir. Meir says, Rabbi, that as much as I could have a shvua mipi achirim, I could go ahead and have someone else articulate the shvua, and I answer Amen to that shvua, that works as if I said it. Rabbi Meir says that only works if administered in front of Beis Din. The Chum say no. Bein mipi atzmo, bein mipi achirim, einon chayavan ad sheyichabru bahen bebeis din. Rabbi say comes along the Chachamim, and the Chachamim say whether you are taking this oath yourself, whether you are going ahead and having this oath administered by others, Shevuos Ha'edus could only be administered in Beis Din. So we'll say fundamental machlokes between Rabbi Meir and the Chachamim. Weiter, v'chayavin al zadon shvua, and we'll say one is obligated, or I should say one is liable. Ultimately, even if one takes this shvua intentionally, in other words, let me say that a little bit better. One is chayiv, even if one intentionally takes this shvua, knowing full well that they do in fact have edus. In other words, you're chayiv for a carbon ola v'yored, even if you intentionally lied, which I will say is quite unique, because up until now, anytime there's been carbonic liability for a shvua, has usually been in a case of unintentional violation. What the Mishnah seems to be telling me over here is that halacha l'maisa, even if I intentionally violated the shvuas edus. So Reuven comes to me, says, Silber, you know edus for me? I say, no, I don't, and I'm lying. I do, and I know that I'm lying. I'm still chayiv a carbon ola v'yored. Next, v'ashigasa im zadon ha'edus. Now listen, this is an interesting case. Shigasa zadon ha'edus is the following case. Let's say again, I know full well that I'm lying, meaning I know that I do know edus on behalf of Reuven. I'm lying, but I'm a shogeg. So what am I a shogeg about? I'm a shogeg about the liability for a shvuas ha'edus. So I don't know the punishment for a shvuas ha'edus. We'll say that's called shogeg, and therefore again in that case I will be chayiv as well. Ve'enan chayavin al shigagasa. But I will say I am not chayiv for a full-blown shogeg. If you look at Rashi in the Mishnah, ve'in chayavin al shigagasa, it's about halfway down the page in Rashi. Im shogegim heim legamre, kisvurim shela in yodim lo eidos va'achar kach niskaru sharayinusin heim lo karina bu nishpan l'shagis. We'll say this is a case where let's say I'm a full-blown shogeg. What's a full-blown shogeg? I thought I really didn't have any eidos on behalf of Reuven, and then it turns out that what? Later on, I remember that I do. So then in a case like that, that's called a regular shogeg. In that case, I will say ultimately again, I will be potter. So we'll say, so again, what is it that we're chayiv for? In other words, azadon shvua. So in any case where the Mishnah said that one is chayiv for intentional violation of the shvua, what am I chayiv? Carbon ola v'yored. We'll say I am chayiv ultimately again a carbon ola v'yored. Good. So the Gemara goes weiter. The Gemara goes weiter. Minhani mili. We'll say, from where do we know this? Now, from where do we know what? So the Gemara starts off by asking, from where do we know that a woman is not permitted to give eidos? Remember again, the Mishnah began by saying that the Shevuos Ha'edus applies to men but does not apply to women. The Pashtus, the reason for that is because women don't give testimony. Women can't be an aid. So from where do we know that a woman cannot serve as a witness? To which the Gemara says, the Torah Rabbanan, V'amdu shnei ha'anoshim. The pasuk says, the two men will stand. The two men will stand. Now the pasuk says, "Va'amdu shnei anashim shalom ariv lifnei Hashem." So he says the Gemara, "Be'edim hakasav medaber." Interestingly enough, as much as one would not have necessarily thought that from the context of the pasuk, but the Gemara understands that the two men standing is a reference to witnesses. To witnesses. So the Gemara says, and we'll say, how does the Torah describe the witnesses? "Va'amdu shnei ha'anashim." Anashim refers to men. Therefore, the Gemara seems to be dashing over here, anoshim velo noshim, men and not women. So the Gemara says, "Be'edim hakasav medaber." The pasuk is talking about witnesses. So the Gemara says, "Atom be'edim ha'ina ela b'balei dinin." Well, how do you know that? How do you know they were talking about edim? Maybe the Gemara is talking about balei dinin, right? Maybe the Gemara is talking about the litigants themselves. Kishu omer asher lahem hariv. Because when the pasuk says later on, those who have the fight, those who have the argument. So it's actually quite interesting. The Gemara is like dividing up the pasuk over here. It's va'amdu shnei ha'anashim. The two men will stand. The Gemara is positing those two men refer to the witnesses. Asher lahem hariv, who have the quarrel with one another. The Gemara understands that refers to two other men who are the people ultimately again who have the actual argument with each other. So the Gemara says Asher hariv hariv balei dinin amar hamani mekayman shnei anashim. So also when the pasuk says that the two men will stand before the Beis Din, who is that a reference to? Be'edim hakasav medaber. The Bible say that refers to the witnesses, and therefore you see the Torah refers to the witnesses as anoshim, as men. So from here we see that only men can serve as witnesses and women cannot. And if you would like to say the following, Ne'emar kan shnei, it says over here, Rabbi say shnei by shnei anoshim, v'ne'emar lahalon shnei, and it says later on api shnei edim, right? So it says shnei later on, ma lahalon be'edim. Just like the second shnei is a reference to witnesses, afkan be'edim. So too over here, va'amdu shnei ha'anoshim is a reference to witnesses as well. So the Gemara says, Mayim nafshecha lomar. What does that statement mean if you would like to say? V'chi tema medalo kasav v'asher lahem hariv kulikra bebalei dinan mishtoi. So the Gemara says the following. The Gemara says, what does that last phrase mean? Perhaps you'll say the following: Midlo kasav v'asher lahem hariv kulei kra bebalei dinan mishtoi. So the Gemara says, since if it wouldn't have said asher lahem hariv, I would have said that the entire pasuk ultimately is referring to the balei din. In other words, the Rabbi said at the end of the day, the simple way to read that first pasuk of va'amdu shnei ha'anoshim asher lahem hariv is not to place a comma between shnei ha'anoshim and asher lahem hariv. The Pashtos is referring to the same people. So the Gemara is saying, even if you don't like my drasha, that va'amdu shnei ha'anoshim refers to the witnesses, asher lahem hariv refers to the litigants. Okay, there's another way to prove it. Ne'emar kan shnei v'ne'emar lahalon shnei. Ma lahalon be'edin, afkan be'edim. So it says over here, I will say by shnei ha'anoshim. It says later on by shnei edim. Just like shnei in the second pasuk refers to the witnesses, so too shnei in the first pasuk refers to witnesses as well. So both say, so it seems to be based on what the Gemara is saying over here. We're learning out the concept of the fact of the fact that women cannot be edim from the simple pasuk va'amdu shnei ha'anoshim, and the drasha seems to be anoshim below nashim, men and not women. Okay, Tanya Idach. So once we have another brisa that supports this. What's the other brisa? Tanya Idach va'amdu shnei ha'anoshim be'edim hakasav medaber. So we'll say another brisa that supports this same idea. The pasuk says the two men will stand. So the pasuk is talking about witnesses. So you're saying it refers to witnesses, but maybe not. Maybe it just refers to litigants. I don't understand. Why would it just say referring to litigants? Only two people could be litigants, but three cannot. In other words, it doesn't make sense to place a cap on the number of litigants in a particular case. Furthermore, if you would like to say as follows. Nemar kan shnei, v'nemar lahalon shnei. It says over here, I will say, va'amdu shnei ha'anoshim, and it says later on, api shnei edim, ma lahalon be'edim, afkan be'edim. Just like later on, it's a reference to edim, so too over here, it's a reference to edim. To which the Gemara says, ma'im nafshecha lomar. What does it mean if you want to say, maybe you'll say that the first pasuk is a reference to the litigants, right? The plaintiff and the defendant. To which the Gemara says, you could fall back on a second drasha. It says shnei over here, amdu shnei ha'anoshim, and it says shnei later on, va'amdu shnei ha'idim. So api shnei edim, ma lahalan be'edim, afkan be'edim. Okay, so we'll say, Tanya Idach. We're just quoting multiple braisos that all support the initial drasha. The initial drasha of va'amdu shnei ha'anoshim, the two men are referenced to Edim, will stand before Beis Din. Ultimately, again, darshaning from here, anoshim velo nashim, that the ability to be witnesses is something that is for men and not for women. And we're just quoting, again, multiple braisos which support this same assertion. Tanya idach, another brisa, va'amdu shnei ha'anashim beidim hakasav medaber. The brisa says now the two men will stand beidim hakasav medaber at omer be'idim o eino ele beba'alei dinin. So how do you know it's referring to witnesses? Maybe it's referring to litigants. So the Gemara says, "V'chi anoshim ba'in ledin, noshim ein ba'os ledin." But one second, does that make sense? What do we say? That it's only men who come to be litigants. Women can't be litigants. That's not true. A woman can be a litigant for any case. To which the Gemara says something very interesting. In nafshecha lomar ne'emar kan shnei v'ne'emar lahalon shnei. And furthermore, if you'd like to say, it says shnei over here, and it says shnei by edim ma lahalon be'edim, just like in the second pasuk is talking about witnesses. Afkan be'edim, so too over here is talking about witnesses as well. Ma'im nafshecha lomar. We'll say, what does that phrase mean? Im nafshecha lomar v'chitema ishalav archei mishum kol kavod debas hamelach pnima. So we'll say, maybe you'll say that's what. Maybe even though a woman can give can be a litigant, perhaps it's not sanua. Perhaps it's not sanua. I will say the concept of kol kavod debas hamelach pnima is this idea that Chazal often quote with this idea that sometimes a woman should not insert herself in an incredibly or dramatically public setting. So perhaps I would say it again, obviously, Kol Kavod Bas HaMelech Pnima, which is a fascinating discussion in and of itself, obviously is also exceptionally societally based. But the idea that Imar is suggesting over here is, I would have said that even though, of course, a woman can be a litigant in a case, maybe she shouldn't show up in Beis Din. Maybe it's not sanua for her to show up in Beis Din. Ne'emar kan shnei v'ne'emar la'alon shnei. Ma lahalon be'edim, af kan be'edim. Just like it says, so therefore, Abba said we keep falling back on that second drush of shnei. It says shnei by edim, and therefore amdu shnei anashim is a reference ultimately again to edim as well. So we'll say, bottom line, is we keep on having the same drasha over and over, which is amdu shnei ha'anoshim, and we have at this point in time multiple times and successfully proven that va'amdu shnei ha'anoshim is a reference to witnesses, and therefore the Torah Dafka calls the witnesses anoshim to teach us that it is men who can serve as witnesses, women cannot. And therefore again, looping back to our Mishnah, therefore when it comes to Shevuos Sa'idos, obviously Shevuos Sa'idos can only be imposed upon someone who has the ability to give testimony. But someone who does not have the ability to give testimony, ultimately, again, cannot have the Shevuos Eidos placed upon them. We'll say also, just remind you, Said pointed out to me, the actual time for the start of the fast is 6:13. 13? Good, 6:13. So, 13 minutes. Good. Baruch Hashem. Okay. Said's also changing the time that Shabbos ends. And Yom Kippur is ending an hour earlier this year. Baruch Hashem. He wields a lot of power. Baruch Hashem. Okay, so let's go back to it. So it says the Gemara, Tanur Rabbanan. So we'll say now we're going to do a couple of this for the next block. The Meretz Hashem is actually going to be nice because we're going to go back to like a little bit of what we'll call like regular sugyas, so to speak. So it says the following: Tanur Rabbanan, V'amdu shnei ha'anoshim. So we'll say now we'll get into some of the mechanics. It's actually interesting, some of the mechanics as to the way that Beis Din works. So va'amdu shnei ha'anoshim, the two men will stand. So now that we've proven that those two men are witnesses, so the Gemara Darshans over here, so this is interesting. After we prove that they're witnesses, right? The Gemara takes a step back and looks at that pasuk as referring to litigants. Mitzvah l'balei din sheyamdu. There is a mitzvah upon the balei din, a mitzvah upon the litigants that they should stand. That ultimately, again, when having their case adjudicated, they should stand. So Rabbi Yehuda says, but I heard that if the Beis Din wants to seat both of the litigants, they have the right to do that. But what is aser? So the Gemara says, Eizuhu aser, shlo yehei echad omid ve'echad yoshev. We'll say what you can't do is, you can't have one litigant standing and one litigant sitting. We're not going to get into a discussion over here about the fact that Beis Din is obligated to create a level playing field for both litigants. That no one should feel that they are given any kind of preferential treatment over the other. So again, as much as Va'amdu Shanashim teaches us that the litigant should stand, if Beis Din wants to seat both of them, that's absolutely fine. And furthermore, but you can't have one standing, one sitting. You can't have one guy that Beis Din says, sure, Talk as much as you'd like. And the other guy who they say, can you please be a bit more concise? Tan Rabbanon. B'tzedek tishbot amitecha. So the pasuk says, with righteousness you shall judge your fellow. Shelo yehe echad yoshev ve'echad omei. The Rabbi says you shouldn't have one person standing, one litigant standing, one litigant sitting. Echad b'daber kol tzorcho ve'echad omer lo kater dvarecha. One is able to speak all he wants, and the other one is told, "Can you hurry it up?" Davar acher b'tzedek tishbot amitecha. Rabbi says another drasha. What does it mean that you should literally b'tzedek with righteousness shall you judge your friend? Havedan es chavercha lekaf suchus. So another drasha the Gemara brings down over here is that you should judge every person favorably. Well, the truth is really what it means will say is that you should give. See, we often translate it as you should. We often go ahead. I got it. I'm good. Don't worry. So we should go. I'm just kidding. So we should go ahead and not necessarily judge every person favorably, but give every person the benefit of the doubt. So we'll say benefit of the doubt just means. Not as judge every person favorably means that you're always right. Okay, not everybody's always right. Benefit of the doubt, lekaf suchus means I don't know the whole story here. I don't know everything. So because I don't know everything, I'm not going to pass judgment on you. Now, of course, in the absence of passing judgment, what happens? In the absence of passing judgment, every person has a cheskes kashrus. So if I'm not judging you negatively, then by definition, I'm judging you favorably. So sometimes it's just about reserving judgment, not passing judgment, recognizing that more often in life, I don't have the full picture. Tani Rav Yosef, b'tzedek tishbot amitecha. So the Gemara says, so Rav Yosef darshan, b'tzedek tishbot amitecha. With righteousness you shall judge your fellow. Im am she'itcha b'torah u'b'mitzvos. So also, interestingly enough, what Rav Yosef is picking up on is the use of the lashon of amitecha. What does that mean, amisecha? What does that mean? So Rav Yosef understands it to mean a contraction. Am she'itcha, he who is with you, b'torah u'mitzvos hishtadol adono. Dafka, someone will say who is amitecha. In other words, there may not be an obligation to judge every person favorably. There may not be an obligation to go out and give every single person the benefit of the doubt. Now, it might be good just als one's midos to be able to do that. But to whom does the biblical obligation devolve upon? Am she'itcha b'torah u'b'mitzvos. Those ultimately, again, who are with you in the observance and in the reverence for Torah and mitzvos, those are the people ultimately, again, you should give the benefit of the doubt, you should judge favorably. The idea being that someone who is embedded in a framework of Torah and mitzvos hopefully is a holy individual, hopefully is a spiritual individual, hopefully is a good individual, refined individual, and therefore they are by definition deserving of your kaf suchos judgment. So the Gemara goes weiter. Ula breid Rav Eloi, hava leidina kamed Rav Nachman. So listen to this case. Ula, the son of Rav Eloi, had a case, had a judgment, a din Torah, in front of Rav Nachman. Shalach le Rav Yosef. So we'll say, listen to this. So Rav Yosef sent the following message to Rav Nachman. Ula chaverenu amis b'Torah u'b'mitzvos. So we'll say, listen to this. Rav Yosef sent a message to Rav Nachman. Rav Nachman is the dayan, and he sees in the docket that Ula's case is coming before him in the judicial docket. So he gets a message from Rav Yosef. Ula, our friend, is steeped, right? Ula is our friend, is steeped in Torah and mitzvos. So Rav Nachman says, Amar lei, l'man shalach li. Why did Rav Yosef send me this message? So Rav Nachman, remember, is the dayan. Dayan has to remain impartial. So ultimately, Rav Nachman asks, why did Rav Yosef send me this message? L'chanufe lei? Ultimately, is he telling me because he's trying to slant judgment in favor of Ula? Hadra Amar, he said, no. I understand why he sent it to me. Lemishra b'tigrei. We'll say, look at the last Rashi on the daf. Lemishra b'tigrei. Ki deprecious in ba din acher lefanai afsok as zetchila. We'll say, as much as we do not give preferential treatment inside the courtroom itself, if a Talmud Chacham is coming ultimately for a din Torah, we will not give him preference inside the courtroom, but we will give him preference in the order in which his case is heard. So if a Talmud Chacham, if there are 5 cases in the docket, and one of them concerns a Talmud Chacham, a Torah scholar, we move his case to the top of the docket. So Rav Yosef, therefore, Rav Nachman understood that Rav Yosef must have been sending this message to tell him, all his cases in the docket, move him to the top of the docket. Amud Beis Rabbi say, Inami, the other possibility is, l'shuda dedaini. So we'll say this is actually very interesting. We've seen this case before. If you take a look at the top Rashi, even having the Shuda Dedaini, Rashi says, Yesh din sheno tali bera'ayis or bera'iyas edim v'lo b'shua ele b'mash shalev hadayanim not eleschos ulechayiv. So most remember, again, we had this case before. Shuda Dedaini means judicial assessment. There are certain cases that cannot be adjudicated based on testimony or based on proof. Just because fundamentally there's a lack of both of those things. So how do you adjudicate a case? How do you adjudicate a case? When there is no testimony, and ultimately again, when there is no edus, when there's no testimony, when there's no proof. Shuddha means the judges are vested with the ability to make a call. Meaning they're vested with the ability ultimately to make an assessment. So what the Gemara is suggesting over here is as follows, which is quite interesting. That Rav Nachman was saying, that perhaps Rav Yosef was saying to him, thank you, Baruch Bishop, for perfect, thank you. Thank you. I need a bigger stender. So the Gemara says the following. So the Gemara says also the other possibility over here is that Rav Yosef was sending Rav Nachman this message just to say that if for some reason you can't adjudicate Ula's case based on testimony or based on proof, I'm almost serving as a character witness. I want you to understand that at the end of the day, Ula is a good man. So I will say, so remember that when it comes to Shuda Dedaini, so ultimately, again, character witnesses will be of exceptional importance. Okay, Amr Ula. Ula says the following. Machlokes b'bali dinin. The machlokes that we mentioned before, of B'tir Yehuda and Chachamim, is only by litigants. Aval be'idim divrei hakol ba'amida. So I will say, the machlokes before about whether or not litigants sit or stand, that's by litigants. When it comes to witnesses, everyone agrees that the witnesses deliver their testimony standing. Where do we get this from? D'chsiv va'amdu shnei ha'anoshim. Because of us, the pasuk says the two men will stand, and what did we just say before? We said that anoshim ultimately again refers to the witnesses. Amar Rav Huna, machlokes b'shas masu matan. Furthermore, Rav Huna says the machlokes is when there is an exchange. Say masu matan means when there is an exchange ultimately again between the Beis Din and the witnesses. However, b'shas gemardin divrei hakol dayonim b'yeshivo balei dinin ba'amida. Rabbi say at the time ultimately when the verdict is delivered, everyone agrees that what dayonim b'yeshiva, the judges sit, u'ba'alei dinin, and the litigants stand. D'chsiv vayeshev Moshe lishpot es ha'am vayamot ha'am. That ultimately again Moshe Rabbeinu sat to judge the nation, and the nation stood. Lishnach rina. But another possibility is machlokes b'shas masa umatan. The machlokes ultimately again is during the exchange. Aval b'shas kimardin, but at the time of the delivery of the verdict, divrei hakol dayanim b'yeshiva u'ba'alei dinin ba'amida. We'll say in this version it's not the edin, but rather again it's the ba'alei dinin. So everyone agrees the judges sit, the ba'alei dinin, the litigants, right? The litigants stand. So the Gemara says daha edim ki gemar din damu. Because I will say ultimately again when the witnesses give their testimony, that's like the equivalent ultimately of the gemar din, and it says va'amdu shnei ha'anoshim. And ultimately, again, it says that the witnesses will stand. So we'll say, therefore, we see that halacha l'maisa again at the time of the gemar din, halacha l'maisa the the ba'alei dinim. Ultimately, again, the litigants stand. The dayanim, the dayanim, yes, the judges sit at the time the witnesses give their testimony. They stand as well. We'll say just one moment.
And they sit, they stand as well.
That's it. 6:12.
No.
Good. Okay. I'm not going to get to the fourth, but okay, good. We'll say weiter. Divisu d'Rav Huna habile dina kamay d'Rav Nachman. So listen to this case. The wife of Rav Huna had the following case, had a din Torah in the front of the basin of Rav Nachman. So this is actually a fascinating case. Amar heichi navid. So Rav say Rav Nachman had the following problem. What's the problem? What should we do? Ikum mikamo. So we'll say, if I stand up in front of her, now remember again, the Gemara is operating, well, we'll discuss in just a moment. So we'll first discuss what what his issue is, and then we'll discuss why it's an issue. So therefore, again, the wife of Rav Huna has a din Torah in front of Rav Nachman. So Rav Nachman is unsure what to do. If I stand up for her when she comes into Beis Din, so if I stand up for her, what's the problem? The problem is it's going to stare the other litigant. Because the other litigant is going to see that what? I'm standing up, I'm giving kavod to the wife of Rav Nachman, which seems to tilt the case in her favor. So the Gemara says, Mistatan Tamasei de Baldina. Lo iko mikama, if I don't stand up in front of her, Eishes chaver, harehi kechaver. Well, it's actually an incredible yisod. The wife of a Talmud Chacham is like a Talmud Chacham herself. Which Rabbi says is actually quite a fascinating idea, because what it means is that in certain respects, the same kavod that we give to Talmidei Chachamim, we have to give to the wives of Talmidei Chachamim as well. So if not to not stand up for when she walks into the room, ultimately again would be an affront to her status as an Eishes Chaver. So listen to this. What does Rav Nachman do? Amar le l'shamei. This is amazing. Say ve'efrach alai bar avza. Here's what I need you to do. When the witnesses are coming in, when the litigants are coming into Beis Din, let a goose fly into the Beis Din. And what's going to happen? I'll go ahead and I'll stand up, but I'll stand up, it makes it look like I'm what? Either trying to avoid the goose, catch the goose. And the idea is that he's saying to his attendant, give me an excuse to stand up. So this way, again, I'll stand up when she comes in, but what? It won't be noticeable that I'm standing up out her kavod. Again, so I'll fulfill my kavod obligation towards her to stand up. But it won't be noticeable that it's an act of kavod for her, because it's being cloaked by the fact that I'm standing up for something else, and therefore I won't share the tightness of the other baldin. I b'hamar mar machlokes b'shas maso matan. But 1 second, we said before the machlokes was only about during the actual give and take of the litigation. Aval b'shas gemardin divrei hakol dayanim b'yeshiva or ba'alei dinin ba'amida. But 1 second, but we said before that when it comes to the gemar din, everyone agrees that the dayanim sit and the ba'alei dinin stand. So how would we address that piece? To which the Gemara said, look at Rashi just a moment. Dayanim b'yeshiva v'haba lachlo kavod hechi avid dekaim. So we'll say at the end of the day, if somebody wants to go ahead and give kavod, how would you do that if the Baalei Dinim themselves are standing? The Yosef command the Shari Masane. Because we'll say essentially what Rav Nachman would do would be to stand up in a way, to stand up and not fully stand up, to stand up like one who is tying their shoes. So we'll say when you stand up like that, so the Maisa, I'm not fully standing up, but I'm standing up enough to be a display of kavod. Va'amar, ish ploni ata zakai, ish ploni ata chayiv. So we'll say one could go ahead, the Dayan could deliver the verdict with that type of posture, not standing fully up, but kind of crouching a bit, meaning standing up, but bending down. This would satisfy the obligation of one hand of yeshiva, of sitting, but on the other hand would give him the opportunity to give kavod as well. Amar Rabbi Barafuna. Haitzura merabana va'ama aretz di'islei dina b'hadi adalis. Well, it's another interesting case. Rabbi Rafuna said, if you have a Talmud Chacham, Tzura merabana means a Talmud Chacham who has a din Torah, who has a case against an ama aretz. So we'll say again, so there's a scholar and an ignorant person who have a din Torah with each other. So what's the halacha? Mosvinon le l'tzura merabana. We seat the Talmud Chacham. And of course, we also give the Am Haaretz the opportunity to be seated. But if the Am Haaretz chooses to stand, less lon ba. Well, that doesn't bother us. As Rabbi say, what the Gemara is saying over here is the following: when one of the litigants is a Talmud Chacham, at that point in time, we're going to seat him out of deference to his position. But if we're going to seat him, then what? We have to seat the other litigant as well. But if the other litigant chooses to remain standing, that is his decision. So we'll say, and let's say he chooses to remain standing, doesn't that skew the din Torah? So the answer is no. Why? Because that's his choice. Meaning we gave him the opportunity to sit. They could have both remained seated. If he chooses to stand, so that's fine, and it does not tilt the din Torah in any way. It's not the din Torah in any way. Rav Bar Sharvia, Havile Dina Kamei Rav Papa. So let's listen to this. Rav Bar Shavia had a din Torah before Rav Papa's Beis Din. Osve, so they seated Rav, va'osiv nami lebal dine. And what happens? They seated the other litigant as well, in conformance with the halachas we just expressed before, that you never just seat one litigant, they seated both litigants. Asla shlicha de beidina batash bey. So it's actually very interesting. So the shlicha de beidina, like the court officer, came and kicked the litigant. In other words, why did he kick the litigant? Because he felt that it was a chutzpah for this other guy to sit down. So what happens? Va'ok me la'amaretz. He caused the amaretz to stand up. V'lo amar le Rav Papa tiv. And Rav Papa did not offer the amaretz litigant to sit down again. So I see what's happening over here. Rav Bar Sharvia and the amaretz have a din Torah in front of Rav Papa. Rav Papa seats them both. The court officer, for whatever the reason, has some kind of issue with the amaretz litigant, kicks him, causes him to get up, and Rav Papa doesn't offer to seat the other litigant again. To which the Gemara says, Hechi Avid Hachi. And I said, how could Rav Papa have left him standing? V'hamistatman ta'anase. Does that not shter the amaretz's ability to properly advocate for himself? In other words, it's everything slanted now. He's standing. Rav Bar Shavia is sitting. Rav Papa Meimar Amar Ihu ha'osvan shlichohu de lo mefayis minai. Rav Papa says no, because at the end of the day, the litigant realizes that I'm not giving either one of them any preferential treatment. V'haraya, I seated them both. Obviously, this amaretz has some type of issue, or I should say, the court officer has some type of issue with the amaretz. In other words, that's some type of interpersonal conflict that's occurring on the side that has nothing to do with the din Torah. I seated them both, and therefore, by definition, I've done my job as a judge to create an even playing field. What's unfolding over here between the amaretz and the court officer, that's not my issue. So let's listen to this. If a Talmud Chacham and an amaretz ultimately again have a din Torah with one another, so what's the halacha? Lo liktom tzura me'rabbanan v'leisiv mishum demechse kiman desader le'dinei. The Talmud Chacham should not show up in Beis Din first, earlier to take his seat in the court. The idea is that it's not appropriate that the Tzora Me'Rabbanan should be seated earlier than the Amaretz. Because we'll say, if he's there first and if he's already seated, then it looks like what? It looks like, again, that the proceedings are slanted in his favor. However, this is only true if he didn't have a chavrusa with the dayan. But if he had a chavrusa with the dayan, and they had a kviyas at a time they normally learned, less lambas. So we'll say, this is actually very interesting, we'll come back and visit this. The Gemara seems to indicate over here that the fact that the litigant has a chavrusa with the dayan does not disqualify the dayan from adjudicating the case, which is quite fascinating. Again, we will revisit this in Meretz Hashem. So the Gemara says, because again, if they have a chavrusa, then when the other litigant walks in and he sees that Tomer Rabbanan is seated, it doesn't share his tightness, because at the end of the day he'll say that's just part of their normal chavrusa. Va'amar Rabbi Barafuna, Haitzra Mirabanan, Diyada Besadusa, Vizele Bemilsa Lameza Lebeidina, Dezutar Mine Lasude Kame. So Lasude Kame, Lo Lezel. So let's listen to this case. If you have a Talmud Chacham who knows testimony, he knows testimony on behalf of someone. But the case is being tried in a Beis Din, where the Dayanim are not of as great stature as this Talmud Chacham. So I'll call him Talmud Chacham A. Call him Talmud Chacham A. Talmud Chacham A knows testimony. But the case is being adjudicated by Dayanim B, C, and D. And Talmud Chacham A is a much greater Talmud Chacham. He's the Gadol Adar. He's greater than B, C, and D. So it's a lack of kavod to him for him to come to this Beis Din to testify in a case that is being adjudicated by people who are not as great as him. What's the halacha? We'll say the halacha is he does not have to go. He does not have to give testimony in such a situation. We also learn this. We also learn what? We also learn this concept that sometimes, I was saying, when the performance of a particular mitzvah represents a lack of kavod for the individual. Under certain circumstances, one could be exempted from that particular mitzvah. So says the Gemara, af anana mitanina, matzah sak o kupa, right? If a person goes ahead and finds a sak o kupa, person finds literally again a bag or some type of receptacle, ve'in darko litol, and again it's not his derech ultimately again to go ahead and pick it up. I was supposed to say it's an object that someone would find, but it's an object that a person of greater stature would not normally bend down to pick up. What's that lacha? Hare ze lo yitol. Ultimately, again, he's not obligated to pick it up. So we'll say this is what we call zakein ve'ino lefi kavodo. This is the idea. Ultimately, again, there are certain things that are beneath my dignity to go ahead and pick up, even though there's mitzvah hashavas aveda, there's mitzvah to return a lost object. But halacha l'maisa, if that object is something that I would not normally pick up based on my station in life, I'm not obligated for mitzvah hashavas aveda. So to the Gemara is suggesting over here that if I know edus, but again, the case is being adjudicated by a court that is quote unquote lesser than me, then I don't have an obligation to show up in that court to give testimony. Gemara says, 1 second, Hani mili mamona. So the case of Hashavas Havit Rabose is monetary issues. So I understand in monetary issues, I might not be obligated to go ahead and what? I might not be obligated to go ahead and pick up an object and return it if it's Eino Lafi Kivodi. However, Aval Bi Isura, Ein Chachma, Ve'ein Tevuna, Ve'ein Eitzel Neged Hashem. Rabose, when it comes to matters of Isser, my covet is not important. When it comes to matters of Isser, the Gemara quotes the pasuk: there is no wisdom, there is no understanding, there is no Eitzah, there is no counsel. L'neged Hashem. In other words, when it comes to matters of Isurim, we do that which is right without regard for one's personal covet. So if I know testimony on behalf of someone else, which very often entails Isurim, so I have an obligation to give that testimony independent of my own covet. So the Gemara says, Kol makom sheyesh chil Hashem, wherever there's the possibility, ultimately again for chil Hashem, ein cholkin kavod l'rav. Ultimately, Gemara say we don't worry about giving covet to people. So by definition, again, the Gemara suggests, although by Hashavas Aveda, there may be a concept, ultimately, again, of zakin ve'inu lefi kavodo, that if it's not appropriate for me, I could overlook the object and simply pass it by. When it comes to testimony, if I know testimony, I have an obligation to give that testimony, even if the case ultimately, again, is being adjudicated in a basin which is of a lesser standing than I myself am. So the Gemara goes weiter. Rav Yemar havid yadilei sadusa lemar zutra. Rav Yemar had testimony, he knew testimony on behalf of Mar Zutra. Asla kamei da meimar, ozvinu lekulu. Amar le Rav Ashi da meimar, varma ula machol kisva valedinin. So let's listen to this. So I'm sorry, let me go back. Asla kamei da meimar. So they came before Meimar. So remember again, Rav Yemar knows Eidos for Mar Zutra. They come to the basin of Meimar, and what happens? Osvinu lekulu. Meimar seated everyone. He allowed both of the litigants to sit down. Remember again, so everybody's sitting down. Amrli Rav Ashi la Meimar. Rav Ashi said to Meimar, 1 second, Vara ma'ula, machlokes babale dinin. The machlokes are both about sitting or standing is only by the litigants. However, aval be'edim divrei hakol ba'amida, but ultimately, again, everyone agrees that the edim give their testimony while standing. Amrle. So the shaila, of course, is, why is it that at the end of the day, you are seating Rav Yemar, right? Rav Yemar was one of the witnesses. Why are you seating him? Why are you seating both? At the end of the day, the witnesses stand. Amalei, listen to this. Hayasei v'hayasei. I will say, you're right. There are two aseis. What are the two aseis? Right? Asei number 1 is va'amdu shnei ha'anoshim, that the witnesses have to stand. Asei number 2, Rabosai, is es Hashem elokecha tira. You shall fear or you shall revere HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And the Gemara Darshans of Baba Kama, l'rabos talmidei chachamim. The Rabosai means that one should honor talmidei chachamim as well. The act of seating Rav Yemar was an act of honoring talmidei chachamim and asay the covered Torah adif. So Rabosai, amazingly enough, Meimar made a call. He called an audible, right? What did he call an audible? He said, I have 2 asays in front of me. Asay number 1 is to go ahead, that the witnesses should stand. Asay number 2 is to give kavod to Talmidei Chachamim. Therefore, again, I felt that the asay to give kavod to Rav Yemar, in this case, seat him, trumps the asay ultimately, again, of having the edim remain standing. All right, so stop over here for today. And Meretz Hashem will continue with more of these details. B'shat tov u'matzlachas tomorrow.